Hey, it's great to be with you today. My name is John Erwin. I am supremely qualified to talk about love, sex, and dating, but not in that order, if you're following my drift. What should come first?
Dating.
What should come next?
Love.
What should come next?
Sex.
Is there something in the middle there? Between
Yeah.
Oh, just checking there. I just see if you were awake this morning. I've been married for 35 years, almost 36. If you'd like to see my beautiful family, look at the next slide. So that is on my daughter's wedding day 7 years ago. That's Katie and her husband, my son, John Daniel, my wife and I. And what happens is, after you go from dating, love, marriage, sex, then you have a stage called grandparents. In another presentation, I'll put my grandson up there, but not today because it gets old, because he's such a cute guy. But he's 19 months old, and how many of you have a little brother or sister still at home? Want to know what's the youngest sibling in your home? Anybody have someone under the age of 10 still at home? Under 5? All right, so you don't have anybody that small hanging around at your house, but let me tell you something. For those of you who read the Bible, just a side comment here about love, dating, marriage, sex. There's a reason why 58-year-olds do not have children, generally speaking, with their wives, because when you're chasing a 19-month-old around at SeaWorld, look at this face. I'm all sunburned. I mean, this kid, and it's amazing what 19-month-olds think is edible. Just an idea here, but if you ever have to babysit a 19-month-old, everything on the ground is potential produce that goes into their mouth. Cigarette butts, used gum, disgusting stuff. So just when you're babysitting, just realize, take care of the 19-month-olds. That's the age of my grandson. And anyway, so that's a little bit about our relationship. I want to ask you a question this morning. Go back. I'll tell you when to go for it. Thank you for catching that on the screen. For those of you listening from China today, we're glad that you're listening in. Just funny little thing, we host international students who live with us. And so before I ever met the girl who lived with us last year, her name was Coco. You know Coco? Yeah. So it's so funny because she goes, Mr. Erwin, I saw you on TV. I go, really? I'm on TV in China? Well, for a health class. I go, they're broadcasting a health class in China? Well, not exactly. I was taking this class. I go, well, like the whole nation see it? No, and I only saw half of it, but I recognize you. So that's our introduction. But most people take this online, but you get the live version today. Want to ask you, how many of you would like to be in a healthy relationship someday? You think you're probably going to get married, all right? Many of you, anybody say, no, pretty much I'm out, I'm like going to be single the rest of my life. I'm never hoping to ever be married. See, okay. So the bottom line is this. I think we all want to be in a healthy relationship. I hope you can be in a relationship like I have been for 36 years, almost married, dated for 6 years. I'll tell you that story. I met my wife who, back then, when we first met, she was 14. I was 16. She was a freshman. I was a junior in high school. So you can end up meeting the person you'll marry in high school. It's highly unlikely. We're like the one out of 73 that did. But I want to ask you, have you ever seen an unhealthy relationship? Like one that's just jacked up? All right? Now, some of you, without voting, although it won't be on camera, how many of you saw a jacked up relationship in your own home, maybe even between your own parents? You know, like that's not the greatest. Right? Some of you are kind of like trying to decide, is it jacked up if they're divorced and my dad's on his 4th wife? Might qualify as jacked up. I get that. Others of you are saying, maybe it's not jacked up, but definitely mom and dad do not communicate. How many of you have seen some of that happen? Okay? And then I'm sure there's never any strife in your home. How many of you ever have, crazy relationships with your own siblings, like you sometimes do not get along? All right? So what we're going to talk about today, whether it applies to just a dating or a relationship in a romantic kind of way, I think these kinds of things actually play across all the spectrums in terms of friendships, relationships, family dynamics. So, if I could tell you These are the 4 most destructive things that could happen in a relationship. Would that be a topic that would interest you this morning? In other words, knowing what a healthy relationship looks like versus unhealthy relationship. I think that would be helpful. And that's where we're headed today. So look at your notes. We're going to look at a thing called 4 kinds of love. We've already identified that we want to be in a meaningful relationship, but there are some danger signs that you need to be aware of. Now, those of you watching, again, the video, we're on this page right here called 4 Kinds of Love. We're going to look at danger sign number 1. First danger sign is romantic infatuation versus true or biblical love. Danger sign number 1 is having a romantic infatuation with someone, but not really understanding true or biblical love. Now, I realize that you come from a variety of religious backgrounds. Some of you are irreligious, unchurched. You go here for the education, but this isn't really your deal. However, the worldview that I'm going to come from today is a biblical worldview, and that is, what does God's Word say about healthy relationships, what's unhealthy, and what's not. Now, is there anything wrong with romance? Just as we're out of the gates here. Anything wrong with romance? No. Romance is good. In fact, in most relationships, you start with this romantic idea, right? Girls, in your mind, you have this idea of the ideal guy. Is that true? Would that be true? I know guys, in their minds, definitely have an idea of what the ideal girl is. And girls, you should have an idea of what the ideal guy is. So what are some of those fantasies in your mind? Like, I would hope someday I'm with so-and-so. You don't have to name names, but just what would be some of those characteristics you're looking for? All right? Anybody? Yeah.
A good sense of humor.
Oh, you'd like to have a guy with a good sense of humor. All right. Yeah.
A good personality.
A good personality. What else? Yeah.
A Christian.
A Christian. Very good. Yeah. Anything else?
I mean, can't really listen a lot, but
If they're good looking. So let's just admit it, that most of you are initially attracted to someone else because, in the biblical King James Version, they're necessarily, they are hot, right? You know? You're looking for someone that's probably pretty good looking. Now, here's the deal. Nature has just a horrible way of taking what was beautiful at one point and everything just goes to pot. Well, not smoking pot, but pot, all right? So my shoulders used to be way up here, and they just kind of slid down here. That's because of 36 years of really good cooking and a sedentary lifestyle sitting behind a desk. But, so if you only base your relationship on romantic or physical feelings, you're going to be disappointed. So look at your list here, and I've given you this idea of infatuation versus real love. I want you to speed read it, and we're going to look at some of the key differences between infatuation and real love. We're saying it's okay to start with infatuation, but you end up on the right side of this column eventually if you're in a healthy relationship. So look at that. There are some major differences in the two, and let's identify what they are. Anybody that just shouts out at you, this is a major difference between infatuation and real love, because you're looking at the two lists. What stands out at you as a major difference? You kind of mentioned one of them already. Anybody? What do you see the differences being? What's a big difference if you're comparing the two lists?
one that's
Yeah, one kind of takes time, and I'm going to give you some things to circle in a moment. We won't show you all the answers here, but yeah, one goes very fast, all right? I remember in 8th grade, I think that's when I actually thought I was in love, but it was all about, this girl that I was afraid to talk to all school year, and then the school year's going to end, and, I thought I was in love, but it was probably infatuation, and it went quick, and it was there, and then it was over, and then school, we were done, and then we were together for like 3 days, and then school was out. So, into that. All right? Some of you started much younger than 8th grade. For some of you, your first love was in the first grade. Yeah. You had that little heartthrob going, and Valentine's Day was like, oh, did I get her a card or not? Or most guys are, by the way, ladies, it's no big deal, but most guys do not recognize your existence until much later. You're generally about 2 years ahead of them. So now you're a sophomore, and they're checking it out. They're going, yeah, you know. Now, some guys start earlier, but, you know, generally girls are much more ready for a committed relationship. Guys are like, let's play Nintendo, you know, Xbox. Yes. Yeah, I got to go through that, you know. Where's the pizza? Provide the games. All right. So, we have time. There's a major difference. We already identified it. What's the very first thing on your outline? What attracts them most? Let's go to number 1, put it up on the screen. The biggest difference is physical attraction versus the total personality. That's a major difference. So, circle physical appearance on the outline versus total personality. Circle those 2 words in your notes there in those left and right hand column. That's a major difference. All right, we identified the second one. Skip down a few to one goes fast, the other one takes time. Oh, stay back right up there. There we go. It moves fast versus takes time. Real love takes time. I've been in love with my wife somewhere between 36 and 42 years. I don't know when it went from infatuation to love, but somewhere before we got engaged, I was in love with this girl. Now, the deal is, if you start young, and you fall in love young, if that's possible, man, you better get married sooner or later, because eventually, we're going to talk about the law of diminishing returns. You're going to end up in a very sexualized relationship if you're not very, very careful. And so even if you're a Christian, you say, I want to wait till marriage, I want to be a virgin, and I'm a big proponent of that. If you want to wait, you got to be careful about how physically you get involved early on in the relationship. And we'll talk about that in a second. Thirdly, another difference is one is idealistic, one is realistic. All right? Idealistic is that your hair is perfectly combed, your makeup is perfect, the guy sees you and goes, oh, I cannot wait to be with you, and you're never not attractive. Now, every girl in this room knows there are times you are not attractive. Right? Let's just name one. The very first moment of your breath in the morning, in bed, is not attractive. Ladies, you have zoo breath. All right? And so do the guys. All right? Not attractive. So there are times where clearly you look better than other times. Some of you look good all the time, at least in your mind, you think you are. I think that any time you have any facial blemish, which I know is the scourge of adolescence, like, oh gosh, do I have to go to school? I'm breaking out. Ugh. And girls are a little more about, proactive or whatever they're going to do to, cover that stuff up. Guys, we would never admit that we're embarrassed by bad skin, but, we do, but, we get into it a little more. Think about it. A girl finds a zit on her face and goes, oh no! A guy finds a zit on his forehead and goes, yeah, incoming, and he gets ready in front of the mirror, right? I mean, it's just how you approach life. Girls, your hair is combed this morning. Look at these guys. They woke up, looked at their head, did this. Yep, I'm good. Oh, I'm not pointing out anybody in particular. This guy actually combed his hair. Somewhere in the last 20 years, bedhead became fashionable, so it's all good. All right? So we got another one. Next slide. Next slide. So, few people approve versus most people approve. But sometimes when you're in an unhealthy relationship that's very infatuated, other people are giving you clues like, this is not good for you. Like, this is not good. And then some people would say, hey, when it's the right person, you find this growing group of consensus that says, yeah, this is a good person for you to be with. All right? Look at another difference. Frequent quarrels versus ability to handle conflicts. Now, in 36 years of marriage, I got to tell you, my wife and I have had quarrels. Christians don't have fights, right? We just have quarrels or loud disagreements, all right? And so we've had a few of our share of that. But what we do believe that in real love, you want to solve that. It's not a win. We create a win-win situation, not just I win, you lose all the time. What's another difference? Taking versus giving. And by the way, all these are kind of in your notes there in those two columns. You can reflect on those, circle those, but those you can kind of see the differences. Oftentimes, an idealized relationship or romantic relationship is all about me, take. Whereas in a genuine, biblical, loving, godly relationship, it's all about giving. I can tell you that for a fact right now, that some of the best times in our relationship were when one of us had to serve the other because the other one was incapable of serving. For instance, when my wife gave birth to both our children, she had to have cesarean sections, and so that was painful, and she's not on her feet right away, and I had to serve her. And she loved the fact that I was kind of waiting on her hand and foot during that time. She was cool about it. She wasn't like arrogant about it. She wasn't like, chop, chop, bring me the grapes, give me some water, get to it, boy, snap, snap. She was not like that. She was, oh, you're so sweet, you're so kind. And of course, every guy's like, I want her to remember how much I'm sacrificing right now because I'm going to ask to play golf here in a few weeks, and I'm going to leave her and play golf. And now, I got to say, she would never expect that, but when I'm all sick and she has to care for me, I just soak it up. Oh, yes, I'm very faint. I need you, honey. Please don't leave. Oh, could you turn that? Thank goodness for the remote control today, right? It has saved so many marriages, because if you're sick in bed, you can't really get out and change the channel. Now I have the remote. It's all good. So, giving versus taking. All right, what's another one? Consuming versus caring. Oftentimes, if you are a consumer, you're selfish. That's another way to put it, versus kind of unselfish and reaching out. And then, anything else there? Okay. Let's go to danger sign number 2. Danger sign number 2. That's conditional versus unconditional love. Danger sign number 2 is when you have conditional versus unconditional love. Now let's just pause there for a moment so we understand the words. I'm going to give you 2 statements that describe conditional love, and I'll give you 1 statement that describes unconditional love, and then we'll illustrate it. All right? So first question, or first statement, is what? You tell me whether it's conditional or unconditional. I love you because. Let's see it on the screen. I love you because. Is that conditional or unconditional? It's conditional. It's conditional based on what? I love you because fill in the blank.
Something they do.
Yeah, something they have to do for you. So let's just practice a few of those. I love you because what?
You treat me so well.
Because you treat me so well. All right, there's nothing bad about that. But when she quits treating you well, then I quit loving you. So remember, that second part will only be true. The first part will only be true. The second part continues to be true. I love you because you treat me well. What's something else? I love you because you cook so good. All right. In a dating relationship, think about something in a dating relationship that might be really practical. I love you because you what? Huh?
You're beautiful.
Because you're beautiful. So if you quit being beautiful, then I quit loving you. All right? That's a scary proposition to be in, isn't it? Especially for girls. He loves me, quote unquote, as long as I look hot. That's not a great place to be. What happens if you get a bad case of chickenpox and you end up with a pocked face? And do you quit loving someone? What happens if that person's injured in a disfiguring car accident and half their face is ripped off? I mean, that's disgusting, but it's reality. So think about conditional. There are reasons why you might love someone, but when those reasons change, that's the gut check where you say, I wonder if I really did love them. All right? This one's a little more insidious. The second one is, I love you if. I love you if. Now, it's a little more, So I love you if. Give me a statement, I love you if.
You feed me.
If you feed me. This group is really into food, I can see. So we've got a bunch of foodies here in this room today.
We're all hungry.
And we're all hungry. You've been here since, 8 o'clock? 8:30? Oh, yeah. By the way, I don't think there's anything good about an 8:30 summer school class. I just think it's pure punishment. But it's better than taking this class online because at least you have fun and humor, long breaks, lots of guest speakers. All right, so I love you if you feed me. Now think about how the hormonal thoughts of a man, what is he thinking about love is all about? I love you if what? If you sleep with me, if you make out with me, if I can get to third base, or whatever base is appropriate or inappropriate. So I love you if you make out with me, if we hook up. How about I love you if you do what I want you to do? I love you if you make me happy. I love you if you do my homework. Okay. Yeah. Does anybody help anybody with their homework? No, you're on. All right. All right. So you can see those are conditional statements. Again, not great for building a long-term relationship, but it seems to be what happens in relationships. Let's look at the third one. I love you in spite of. I love you in spite of. Okay, that's probably, that is conditional or unconditional?
Conditional.
That's unconditional. And your homework assignment tonight, in 1 Corinthians 13, you're going to look at characteristics of what we call biblical love. And I'm calling them the ABCs of love. Now, you're going to hear about this in the lecture, and that will help you get your homework done. If you pay attention to the last part of this lecture, you're going to get half of this done by listening today. So just heads up on that. All right? So, conditional versus unconditional. This unconditional thing of love. I've seen this alive and well in my own family, in my own marriage. I see it in my daughter's marriage. I see that she's working and trying to care for a 19-month-old, and I see how my son-in-law loves his son and loves his wife, my daughter, and serves her sacrificially even when they're both tired. You know, I saw it with my parents who were married 55 plus years, as my mom cared for my dad who had Alzheimer's, and the last 4 years of his life barely recognized her and forgot that he had eaten the same exact thing for lunch for like 2.5 years. He wanted the same thing, thought it was new. Oh, let's have a chili relleno. Okay, honey. And every day for 2.5 years. And in fact, she ended up going to a Mexican restaurant called Don Jose's and asked, can I just order like plate loads of like trays full of these? And she frees them because every day he wanted to eat the exact same thing and thought it was new every day. That's unconditional love. I've seen it in church where I do a lot of counseling and I deal with people who are going through the grieving process of losing someone. And the harder time is when they lose someone to an accident and they don't die, but they're permanently disabled for the rest of their life. That's unconditional love. So when people ask you, when you're ready to really settle down and you've met the man or woman of your dreams, I want to ask you, somewhere in your pre-marriage counseling, you've got to have that gut check that says, can I see myself living through all the life stages of life together, and I'm going to be with them through thick and thin, for better or for worse, till death do us part. That's what a commitment to marriage is all about. Unfortunately, your generation has seen plenty of what we call serial marriages. It works for 5 years, dump this one, go for number 2. And maybe, unfortunately, even in your own homes, you've seen that with your parents and your own dad number 2 or 3, or mom number 2 or 3, and you have unbelievable tensions because of broken marriages. By the way, can God work through a broken marriage? Absolutely. Absolutely. And you're probably got stories that can tell us how that works. All right? So danger sign number 2. Number 3. Danger sign number 3 is an unhealthy dependence versus independence. Unhealthy dependence versus independence. And we're going to look at some characteristics of an unhealthy dependent relationship. And in a moment, we're going to turn off the film and the camera, and we're going to break into guys groups, like 2 girls groups and 2 guys groups. Unhealthy dependence versus independence, all right? And we're going to look at the differences between that. But just generally speaking, before I break into groups, what are some characteristics when you see an unhealthy dependent relationship? And on your notes there, you're going to see that I gave you room to write 10 things. You could write 30 things. I'll give you, quote, the right answers, but really your answers will be just as good as mine. So let's do a couple of them together before I break into groups. What's an example of an unhealthy dependent relationship? You've just seen it around campus here. What is it like? Any ideas? Somebody who has an unhealthy dependent relationship. Yeah.
The person always has to ask for permission.
Oh yeah, there is no freedom. It's like they are so attached at the hip, you've got to ask permission to anything. And guys, there's a word for that. When she does that to you, it means you were whipped. Yeah, whipped. Right? Like, the guys go, hey, we're going out, we're going to go see X-Men and get some pizza. And they ask you, and you go, no, I've got to check in with Gladys. And I'm sure Gladys would like me to go out with the boys. Yeah. Now, that's the classic. And girls, does that feel empowering? Like, wow, I have so much power with this guy. He's got to check in with me before I go out. No, that's kind of sick and twisted, all right? You should have a little more healthy relationship. So there's an example of an unhealthy dependent relationship. So here we're going to turn off the camera. And for those of you listening at home, you need to be making your list of unhealthy dependent relationships, what those characteristics look like, all right? All right, let's look at the characteristics of unhealthy dependent relationships. Let's see how many you got. First one, survey says, they feel totally lost without you. If you don't have that one written down, go ahead and write it down on your notes or off to the side. And these are kind of my top 10 that I've seen over and over and over again. Lost without you. Number 2, other friendships suffer. Now, nobody mentioned this, but oftentimes what happens is you quit having friends of the same sex. So guys, like if you're totally whipped, you like abandon all your friendships with the guys that you hang out with just for this girl. Guys, by the way, are a little more forgiving about that. So when you come back to the fold, they're going, that's cool, dude, we get it, yeah, you were with, you come back. Girls can be much different. You like reject the group of girls you've been hanging with because you're hanging out with Henry all the time. It might cost you to get back into the group. Like, yeah, we'll think about it. All of a sudden you're not invited to the beach anymore, and like, I know you're with Henry all the time. So girls may exact a little more punishment on you coming back to the fold. Just an observation. Guys are like, yeah, whatever, I'm good. All right. Other friendships suffer. Number 3, mad jealousy. I mean, mad jealousy. I mean, like, you just even think about looking at another girl, guys, and she's just all over you, like, that kind of thing. Now, guys, girls, we do have to admit, guys can be a little sly on that, right? So they're with you, they're kind of doing this, looking past you, looking over here. And by the way, looking isn't the problem. Lusting is the problem. That's a whole other discussion when we get to sex here in just a bit. But a guy who's with you shouldn't be making you feel insecure because he's always got eyes for some other girl. That's not a healthy relationship. Now, that doesn't mean he's just doing this. And if he starts drooling, run. But the bottom line is, guys are physical beings. They're attracted through the sight lines. And so girls, if you draw attention to yourself, guys are going to check it out, right? Now you say, guys, they're such perverts. We shouldn't have to deal with these pervert boys that are checking us out. I could suggest that girls, maybe you draw less attention to yourself by being careful how you dress. All right? Yeah. That's just an idea. So something to think about. Why do you think guys, wear sunglasses at the beach? It's not to protect their eyes, it's so they can see the landscape, ladies. So they can see the landscape. They just want to see. Now, some guys would say this in a dating relationship. Say they're dating, they would say, just because you got your money on one horse doesn't mean you can't watch the race. Now, I would say that's worldly. I just gave these guys a line, I'm sorry. Yeah. By the way, let's agree, we do not go home. Do you know what Pastor Erwin said about horse racing? We'll just leave it there. All right, man, you are a really fun group. Compared to last year's group, this is very fun. All right. He says that every summer. Okay. Mad jealousy. Number 4, loss of independent decision making. All right. Yeah, that whipped. You can put whipped in parentheses. Wrap around your little finger. All right. Can't make any decision without the other person with. All right. And all the guys can do that one last time out loud in use before the camera. The little whip sound. 1, 2, 3. Ooh, got it live here on Chinese TV. Here we go. By the way, does anybody take this other than kids from China online? Anybody can take it online. Okay. Sorry for those of you listening from Westlake. I'll go to the Westlake story soon. All right. Loss of independence. Excessive PDA. Good job. You got that one. Next one. Next one.
Yes.
Next one. Oh, there's your hand. Oh, just come up here for the camera. That was too good. All right, excessive PD, lots of individualization. This whole idea of being whipped. Here we go. Very good. Where do people come up with these apps? All right. What's our next one? Anything after that? Yeah. All right. Distracted. So when I started dating Cheryl, I was 16, she was 14. I had a 4.0. That was my all the way through the spring semester of my junior year. And then I got 1B that year. I got a B in Spanish. I blamed it all on her. My dad was one of those guys like, you got a B? What's wrong with you? Now, hopefully you don't have parents like, maybe you do, huh? Anybody who gets a B, like, you're dead? All right? Okay. Hey, by the way, living with our two girls, they have like zero tolerance for anything other than age, right? And it's like, they don't get an A, they're just in morbid depression, and it's very difficult for them. Now, the funny thing is, I can never quite understand because they're speaking Mandarin and they're Skyping with mom, but I can tell by the intensity that sometimes maybe this isn't going as well as they thought, all right? Just an idea. All right, so distracted, constant conflict. All right, they're fighting all the time. They can't get along. Now, just on a serious note, some of you, how many of you are actually in a relationship with somebody right now? I'm not going to embarrass you, are they in the room together? Extra credit if I can get you on the screen.
No.
No. Okay. All right. All right. So here's the just a question. No one will see your faces. How long have you guys been dating?
7 weeks.
7 weeks. All right. So it started right before school got out in May. It continues into the summer. See, you're doing much better. Mine lasted 3 days. School's out. I'm done. This is 8th grade. We're over. So one of the things I'd ask you to do is look at your relationship and how much of this is true of you. If it's not true, then good. If you have like 1 or 2 of those things, you're saying, hey, maybe we should talk about that part. And we're not going to ask you to evaluate and then give yourselves a score from group, so you're safe. All right? Thank you. Now all the guys are going, yeah, do it. Let's hear the score. All right. Constant conflict. Is there anything else? Yes. All right. Totally a mess. That means like they are inseparable. All right. They have no distinct personality. They can't make any decisions, like we said, without the other person having to be involved in that.
So
all right.
They're not their own person.
They're just not their own person at all. Okay. Okay. Anything else? They are in. Okay, we'll go to cause in a second. Back that up. Okay, now, the question is, if we want to be in a healthy relationship, and we see how all these relationships over here are jacked up with these kinds of characteristics, you want to ask yourself, why? How does someone end up in an unhealthy, dependent, abusive relationship? How does that happen? For instance, this story has been multiplied multiple times over my years of counseling. A college girl comes in to see me. She's not sure if she should stay with this guy. And I go, well, why do you want to not stay with him? Well, he's cheating on me. I would say, Earth to Monica, let me just clarify something. He's cheating on you as in currently? No, not today. Well, like last week? Yeah, and that was the first time, right? Oh, no. Like this has happened multiple times? Uh-huh. And you're asking me why you feel insecure in this relationship. I'm just getting the story here. Now, most of you are looking at this, like you're like these, if I could get you on camera, you're like, what's wrong with this girl? Like, hello? Like, drop the guy, right? And one of the issues is, for some people, they'll stay in a relationship for what reason?
They want popularity.
Sex. Other than that one, maybe they're staying in a relationship. Look at the first one. It leads me to my first answer. First cause of this is they're insecure. They have a poor self-image. Right? So poor self-image. So sometimes you stay in a relationship just because you're insecure and you're not sure what you're worth. Maybe you've come from we'll talk about this in a little bit about your family, but they have a poor self-image, all right? So what seems obvious to their friends doesn't seem obvious to them. Like, this guy's cheating on you. This is bad news. Dump the dude, all right? You deserve better than that. And your girlfriends tell you that, and the girl goes, no, he loves me. Really? If he loves you, then why is he cheating on you? I'm sure it's my fault. Oh, that's even more insidious when he uses you and blames you for why he's cheating on you. Do you see how twisted that is? And you say, that doesn't happen. I am telling you for a fact. It's happened so many times I can't tell you how many times it's happened. All right? And it's like, they're in the, you want to take them, you want to just take them and go, what's wrong with you? You know, and you want to shake them. Right? I'm not suggesting you're in an unhealthy dependent relationship. Just be respectful. There you go. All right. Number 2. Past abusive relationships. Some people only know one kind of relationship. Abused, twisted, and wrong. Alright? And so they're in this controlling, manipulative relationship. And quite frankly, look at this second statement. Their fear of not finding someone else is worse. You know, they'd rather be in a bad relationship than having no relationship. Now, I want you to think about that for a second. If you ever stayed in a relationship, even though it wasn't healthy, it wasn't good for you, it was bad, you might ask yourself, did I stay in that because I can't be alone? There's a song that's real old now, it's called Looking for Love in All the Wrong Places. And ladies, I want to tell you just for a moment here. I'm the father of a daughter who's almost 30 and a son who's 28. Daughter's married, son's in a committed relationship with a girl, and they'll probably get married sometime in the future. Right? Daughter got married 7 years ago, so she was 22 when she got married. Met him in college, got friends in college, dated her sophomore year. He, asked me if he could marry her after junior year, and I'll tell you that story to have the whole day here today. But I can tell you something. My daughter and son, I'm not bragging, has seen what a healthy relationship and marriage is like. Through the thicks and thins of life, my wife and I have been committed for 35 plus years and dated for 6. I actually broke up a little bit in the middle there when we were in college just for about 18 months. But they've seen that. So my daughter received appropriate affection from her mom and I growing up, and part of being a dad is helping her understand what she's looking for in a husband. I made her read all these books like I Kissed Dating Goodbye and Handling Your Hormones and all these books. She had to read. In fact, she was one of those readers. Like, she's 5 years old, she wants to be reading, even though she doesn't know what she's reading. She's reading, right? So I told her she couldn't go out until she had read certain books, and for sure it's not going to be until like she's 16, 17, 18. I told her 32, but would settle for 16. So she's like 12, 13 years old, and she's reading these books, right? And so she was reading, she was doing a lot. She knew what she was looking for. She didn't really, this is an interesting fact, she didn't really date in high school. She had a little, 6-month relationship her senior year with a guy who was a junior in high school, and it ended because she went off to college, she's still in high school. Which, by the way, that's when I broke up with my now wife, but when we were in high school, when I went off to college and she was still in high school, kind of ended the relationship for a few years until she got to college, because no respecting college guy is going to be dating a high school junior. That just doesn't look good for the credibility. That's just crazy. But we were far away, so that's why we broke up. So Katie didn't really seriously date only 2 boys in her entire life, right? And when she decided that this was the guy for her, she made him come and talk to me about getting married. Now, that's part of the deal. Before anybody marries you, they got to come through me, and they got to ask. Now, of course, he comes to talk. I've got a gun on my hip here. No, it's not intimidating. But I love the way he proposed to her. For instance, so when I talk about the kind of relationship that's healthy, that is not because of poor self-managed or abusive relationship, I'm talking about Katie and Ryan, for instance. So, I'll tell you the story later, because I'll save it for the end, but it was a cool story. Number 3, dysfunctional family. Another reason why people in these kind of relationships is they're just totally jacked up. They come from a dysfunctional family, okay? And they haven't seen stability, they haven't seen love, they haven't seen healthy relationship. And number 4, immaturity. They're just immature. They're just immature. And I think on your notes there, I still have 5 blanks, but there's only 4. So you can make up your own cause for number 5 for extra credit. All right. By the way, anything else you see in why people are in unhealthy dependent relationships besides poor self-image, abusive relationships, dysfunctional family, and immaturity? Anything else that you've seen just in life? Yeah.
A change in personality.
Sometimes there's change of personality, and people actually go through some psychological issues that may cause them to be kind of wacky for a time. Okay? Good. All right. Let's look at the 4th. Yeah, do you have something else?
Well, one thing is that I've seen girls that are in my family, like cousins of mine, who didn't really have a father figure in their life, so they dated a lot of the wrong boys.
Yeah, didn't have the father figure. That's kind of looking for love in all the wrong places, and that's part of why I think Katie, my daughter, did well. 2-parent intact family, saw love, and had a father who invested in her. There's a book by a guy named Norm Wright. It's called Always Daddy's Girl, and this idea how the influence of a dad on a daughter and the influence of a mother on a son. And interesting enough, if you want to see how the kind of word on the street is, if you want to see how a guy is going to treat you, look at what his relationship is with his mom. All right. You want to see a wife, what was her relationship with her father? And opposite that opposite sex parenting role gives you a clue as to how they're going to behave down the road. Now, if you have girls, just calm me down here a second. If you have a totally jacked up dad and your relationship is tense, there's hope for you. You're not going to be trapped like, I'm going to continue the cycle. But you got to be aware of it. If your relationship with your dad is horrible, that's something you might want to think about. How do I work on that? Because I don't want to bring that baggage into a future relationship, especially into a marriage. All right. Okay. Danger sign number 4: confusing sex with intimacy. Confusing sex with intimacy. And this is a big one because we're such a sexualized society. And it's harder now than ever for men and women to be sexually pure and remain virgins before marriage. Both my wife and I were both virgins. I realized that, are you kidding me? Didn't you want to jump her? Of course I wanted to jump her. Of course I wanted to have sex with her. But I believe that waiting was what's best for us for 2 reasons. There are a lot of reasons, but number 1, biblically it's the right thing to do. Secondly, it was the right thing to do because we wanted to prove trust in our relationship and dating so that she didn't have to worry about whether I'm going to be checking out other women or bedding down with other women once we were married. Now, I know that seems a bit old-fashioned and antiquated, but let me tell you why. Number 1, when you are having sex with someone outside of marriage, that often clouds, put up the slide here. Oh, wait, before that, just a second, I'll tell you something. It often clouds all the other areas of the relationship because you're not seeing clearly. So do this for me. Put your hands over your eyes like this. Now, when I do that, I cannot really see clearly. I kind of look through the holes in my finger. I couldn't see, you very well at all. You can take your hands off. That's kind of what happens in relationship when you don't see clearly what's really going on in a relationship. For instance, that girl that's allowing a guy to cheat on her or he's abusive to her, and she says, but he loves me. It's oftentimes because they are in a highly sexualized relationship, and there's either guilt or unhealthy dependence that keeps her from saying, oh, wow, that guy is creepy. Why am I putting up with that? All right? So it clouds relationships. So let me illustrate how sex clouds a relationship. I'm going to do a little illustration here. There's going to be a paragraph that's going to come up on the screen. It's not on your notes. And all I want you to do is look at the paragraph and count, without telling anybody the answer, and don't sharing your answer, count the number of F's in this paragraph. You have 10 seconds. Go. Not those 2 F's, just in here. Do not say the answer out loud. Time's up. You get to vote. You can vote multiple times. How many count? Actually, hopefully you only vote once. How many count 3 F's? Raise your hands. Oh, very good. How many count 4 F's? How many count 5 F's? How many count 6 F's? How many count 7 F's? How many count 8 F's? All right? We'll see what the answer is. So, here's what's obvious. Next slide. Most of you caught these first three. See, when you're having sex in a relationship, you're not seeing things are right before your eyes. Go to the next slide. They were always there, but you didn't see it. In the same way, those F's were there. I wasn't hiding the fact. You can count. So the answer is 6. For those of you who voted 6, that's the right answer. But that's what happens. When you're in a sexualized relationship, you don't see some of the things that are red flags to the relationship that were like danger, danger, like be careful about this, okay? Let's go to the next slide. So there's a lot of confusing issues with this. Where's your notes? Where's your page? So on the back side here, I'm going to talk about intimacy, so do not write these down, but you can see that there's a lot of issues with premarital sex. Now I realize this isn't the sex talk, so I'm going to go very quickly, but 9 little known facts. Premarital sex often tends to break couples up. Number 2, many men don't want to marry someone who's had intercourse with someone else. Number 3, those who have had premarital sex tend to have less happy marriages. By the way, there's a whole lot of statistical and sociological information about cohabitation, because it's really cool, like, oh, let's just live together and we'll get married. I could show it to you. You can meet, if you ever come to me in pre-marriage counseling, I'll show you the research on cohabitation. That's not even from a biblical standpoint, it's just what's going on in our culture that they can tell you this. Number 4, those who have premarital sex are more likely to have marriages that end in divorce. Persons and couples who've had premarital sex are more likely to have extramarital affairs. I can't tell you how often that's true. Next, having premarital sex may fool you into marrying a person who's not right for you. One of the concerns I have for someone who's sexually active is if they're blinded by things in a relationship, they think they're in love, but they're really in lust. All right? Some would say they're in heat, maybe. Next, persons and couples with premarital sex experience seem to achieve sexual satisfaction sooner. That's the one positive. Yeah, but here's my answer to that. I've had 35 great years of practicing and getting better. Let me just tell you. We were virgins, we were married. I'm not going to go into details of the privacy of our honeymoon, but I'm telling you, I am so glad that I didn't have some past sexual experiences to compare that experience to. That our first time was with each other. And I don't have any baggage that says, oh yeah, but so-and-so was so much hotter, or oh, that was a drag. All right? Next. However, they are more likely to be less satisfied overall with their sex life during marriage. And lastly, the 4 premarital sexual habits can be carried over to coital sex in marriage. That's speaking of this. A lot of times when you're having sex as teenagers, you're worried about 3 things. Number 1, what?
Babies.
Babies. Number 2? STDs. Number 2, babies? Babies and babies. Okay. Babies is number 1. Number 2 is what? STDs. And number 3? Mom and Dad walking in on us. Yeah, okay. That's number 3. So, oftentimes you end up having really bad sexual habits because it's rushed, it's nervous, it's tense, and it's horrible. Let me tell you something else. Everybody's going to tell you to use a condom. I can tell you for a fact, as a married man, using a condom is like kissing someone through a screen door. It is just not the same. All right? I'll just leave it at that. Some other day you can talk to the sex doctor, and we can talk very frankly, but that's not really my area. All right? So there's some stuff on sex and intimacy. Now, let's wrap up by looking at this last section. So if you want intimacy, that's a good thing. There's nothing wrong with wanting intimacy in relationships, okay? And let's go to that. Let me show you this. I think it's like a 3-sided triangle. These are 3 things about intimacy that this is what you want in a relationship. Number 1, you want commitment, all right? Do you have a love that's going to last for a lifetime? Commitment.
Yeah, it's
All right. And then, number 2, you want communication. Are you able to talk and listen to each other? That is so important to stay married over 35 years. And then lastly, you want companionship. Are you the best of friends? All right? Are you the best of friends? Now, this is where this will help you for your homework assignment. Note to self, this next section. So let's look at the ABCs of love. Before he puts them up there, I want to suggest to you, when you study the passage in 1 Corinthians 13, now you won't find these exact words, you're going to find these 5 ideas, all right? And you'll have to find out where I think I'm pulling that. That's part of the assignment. So, look at your notes. You see I blank, and then there's a sentence there. You're going you're going to teach the rest of this class. So, what's the first A of the ABCs of love? I accept. All right, that's the first one. Put it down. I accept you just as you are. All right. What's the B? I what? Look at the sentence. I believe that you are valuable. Excellent work. Okay, I believe that you are valuable. What's the third one?
I care.
Very good. I care when you hurt. I care. All right. D.
I deserve.
I deserve. I desire. Very good. I desire the best for you. This is the hardest one. If you get this one, you win.
I
explain.
excuse. Sorry.
I erase. All right. I erase all offenses. By the way, if you excuse all offenses, then you're totally with. All right. You do forgive, but you got to be accountable. All right. Now, I said I'd close with a fun story. I want to tell you a story of my daughter's engagement, and we'll wrap up with this. So she's a junior in college, and she's going to graduate middle of her senior year, 3.5 years. So Ryan comes to me in January of her junior year and says,
Is there any way we can borrow Boris?
"Who?
Boris?
Boris?
Yeah.
Oh, that's up to the teacher. Bye, Boris. It's nice having you." That's on tape. Cut that, all right? So he comes to me and says, "I would like to propose." At first he asked permission. I said, "Sure. Why do you want to marry my daughter?" And he gave me all the good reasons. Okay. All right. So he says, "I'd like to propose to her in Hawaii when you guys go on your family vacation this summer." I said, "Oh, great idea." Because we had invited him to come. He goes, "However, we're going to tell Katie that I can't come to Hawaii." Ooh, intrigue is building. I said, "What do you have in mind?" "Let's tell her I can't come," because he comes from a family of 8 kids, that this is kind of my last summer, I want to do a camping trip, and it happened to be at the same time, and I'm going to take my brothers camping, etc., etc. But actually, I'm going to fly there a day earlier, and I'll be there to propose. So you can start your married life on Hawaii. And I go, okay. So he goes, "Yeah, we'll just play a little trick on her." I said, "Okay." Now she's really bright. She's gonna like check it out. So he did the whole thing. It's all set up. He's gonna propose to her at the Hula Grill in Maui, right on the beach. And if you've ever been there, it's just the coolest restaurant. So it's the day of our trip. We're leaving on Sunday. He shows up at our house on Saturday with his brothers in the van with ice chests, sleeping bags, lanterns, as if they're going camping. But she goes, "Let me see your route." He'd even gotten a trip tip from Auto Clubs to show the route that they're going to be taking. And actually, all he's doing is the boys are taking him to the airport so he can get there a day before us. So he gets there a day early, stays with a friend. We fly in the next day. We had told our kids, "Let's go to dinner our first night out. We'll eat groceries the rest of the week, but let's go out tonight at the Hula Grill." "Whoa, that sounds like a great place." What she doesn't know is he's made arrangements with the proprietor, the owner of the restaurant, to propose. They have live music, so when the band goes off for their first set, he's going to come on stage and sing to her. So here's how it's all set up. So we get there, we leave the kids at home, we go grocery shopping, and we're going to the Hula Grill. He is a nervous wreck. We're there about 4 o'clock. He is just like pacing. He's got his stuff. We hide his stuff in our car because he's flown there a day early. Like, what are we doing with an extra suitcase? And he's made arrangements with the owner of the restaurant. Goes, "Oh, Mr. we're expecting you. Here's what we're thinking in terms of the camera angle, because my wife's going to videotape us, all right? So we think you should get this table. There's the stage. Here's a place where you can slip out. She'll never know you're there. You can film from here." And we're like, "Dang, this is good." They call a meeting of all the wait staff saying, at approximately 8:12, there's going to be an engagement here. You need to silence your tables so this guy can do his thing. And like, "Yes, sir." So it's all set up. So it's 8 o'clock. We get there. We're having appetizers. And the band goes off. We're not paying attention to the band. I'm a nervous wreck. John Daniel, we didn't tell what's going on until the day of, because this guy cannot keep a secret for the life of him, right? So then we finally fill in younger brother that, so his role is to get her to come out onto the dance floor. So Ryan's getting up there, and he's singing this Ryan Bedingfield song, "If You're Not the One," or Daniel Bedingfield song, "If You're Not the One." He's singing it, he's killing it, it's awesome. She's not paying attention, so John's deal is to get her on the dance floor. "Come on, Katie, dance with me." He pulled it, it's like loser brother, of course not. "Come on, Katie." So he pulls her out of the dance floor, he spins around, and all of a sudden, he sees she sees Ryan on the stage singing. Now, she has not put two and two together. You can just see her little firstborn, and she goes, what are you doing here? Like, you're supposed to be with your brothers. And then I have to, like, he kind of pushed her toward the stage, and I think it starts to dawn on her, like, ooh, this could be good, right? So he gets done singing the song, and here's Cheryl filming, like, so she's like whimpering on the film. He kneels down. Now there's like 400 people all together in this restaurant, outside, inside. It's huge, and you hear all the waiters go, shh. You know, you hear like 27 shushes going on, and they're like, hey, stop! You know, and so it is, you can hear a pin drop. He kneels down just like this. He takes the mic in his hand, he takes her hand, he says, Katie Erwin, you were the first girl I ever kissed, and you will be the last. Will you be my wife? On the tape, and so every girl in line just goes, oh! On the tape, all you hear is my wife going, oh! She goes from whimpering to like sounding like a cow in labor. I mean, it's just like, I mean, it is touching. And of course she says yes, and then they were like the stars of the week. I mean, everyone went, dude! That was the guy who proposed. We are so screwed. You know, every guy, that is awesome. Every girl's going, see what a good guy does? See? Where's my ring? So it was a pretty cool thing. They've been married 7 years. Will they be married for 35? I sure hope so. But I can tell you this, that in their relationship, they understood the difference between healthy and unhealthy relationship, and they tried to work towards having a healthy relationship. And that's how it works in a storybook finish. Thanks so much.